Hey guys, it's Jess of Lunar City Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to make your own Kindle or tablet sleeve. These are specifically made for the Kindle 11th generation, but really you can make them any size you need following these instructions. You could also add a strap and just make these into a little purse. I think it would be really cute. It's like a crossbody bag. This is what it looks like with the Kindle inside. So for this project, you're going to need two different yarns of similar weights, a button, and a hook that coincides with your yarn weight you're using. For me, it's a 4mm. To start, you're going to make a chain that is the width of the tablet that you're trying to make the sleeve for. For me, that is a chain of 20. As you can see here, my chain is now the width of my Kindle. Now I am going to keep this stitch under my thumb to keep track of it and chain an additional 3 chains. And then I'm going to go into that stitch that I was holding, the 4th chain from the hook, and make an additional 3 double crochet. So counting that starting chain 3, we will have 4 double crochet into this one stitch. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets in that end chain, and now we're going to work 1 double crochet in each chain along the top. So you're going to continue to do that all the way down until you get to your last chain. And now that I am at the second to last, I'm going to work 1 more double crochet, and then in the last stitch right here we're going to work another cluster of 4. So now you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochet in that last chain stitch, and then we're going to start working down the other side of your chain. So starting in the next chain, we're going to keep our tail close to our work, so we're going to work over the tail while we work into our stitches so that we don't have to sew it in later. If you would prefer, you can just sew it in at a later time. You don't have to do this, but it just makes it a little quicker. As you're working, also make sure that you keep your tail pulled tight just so that it doesn't bunch up and show through your work. Keep working in this way with 1 double crochet in each stitch, skipping this last stitch here when you reach the end of your work, that stitch is actually a part of the first stitch that we worked our cluster of 4 into, so we're gonna ignore that and slip stitch into the top of our starting chain 3. At this point you should have a total of 44 stitches, your clusters of 4 at each end, and then 18 stitches on each side of your work if you are following the exact pattern that I'm making. Then starting the next row, we are going to chain 3 and then work 1 double crochet into each stitch around our work. So 1 double crochet in each stitch all the way around, stopping in this last stitch here. So we're at my last stitch of this round, so I'm going to go ahead and work that stitch. And as you can see, this here might look like a stitch, but it's actually the slip stitch from the round before this. So we're actually going to just skip that and slip stitch now into the top of our chain 3 from the beginning of the round. At this point, your work should start to look like this, folding upwards in the form of a sleeve. At this point, I'm going to repeat row 2 for the next 4 rows, so that's a total of 6 rows of this color, or you could just repeat row 2 for the length of your project, which would be 16 rows of double crochet for this size sleeve. So I'm going to continue, like I said, and make 4 more rows with this color. Now that I've completed my 6 rows, I'm going to tie on my secondary color. For that, I'm going to cut this tail. I'm going to leave it long enough so that I can tie a knot, as well as sew in my end when I'm done. And then I'm going to take my second color and leave a tail of similar length and pick up the yarn like I'm going to start working with it, leaving the tail behind. Just loop it onto my hook, and then I'm going to pull the tail tight from the first color I was using, leaving my hook in the loop so that it doesn't pull out. And then I'm going to tie my 2 tails together. People have a lot of different ways of switching colors, so if you have a different way that you prefer, that's perfectly fine. This is just how I do it, so I thought I would show you what I do. I do tie the knot at least 2, normally 3 times, just to make sure that it is secure and that nothing's gonna come undone. And then with these 2 tails, once you have a couple rows done of the second color, you can go back and sew those in. And now for row 7, we're just going to continue the way we have been, just with our new color. We're going to start with a chain of 3, counting as our first double crochet, and then we're going to do 1 double crochet in each stitch around, having a total of 44 stitches when you come to the end of this row, just like there has been for every row prior. So just keep working around until you get back to the start, slip stitching into the top of your chain 3 For this color, we're going to make an additional 10 rows, as you can see here. Of course, you're going to make as many rows as you need for the length of your tablet. This is just what I'm doing for my Kindle. Now I have my 10 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm going to start my next row, which is a row of half double crochet. So for this row, I am going to chain 2 at the start instead of what we have been doing, which is chaining 3. So that's 1, 2, and that counts as our first half double crochet. And then we're just going to do half double crochet around as we have been with our double crochet. So now that I've made it to the end of my row, I'm going to work my last half double crochet in this stitch here, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 2. Some of these stitches get a little snug, but you just work it through and work your slip stitch. So now for our last row, we're doing a row of slip stitches and the chain for our button. So we're just going to go directly into the next stitch, and we're going to start slip stitching around 1 slip stitch into each stitch. Try and keep these as loose as you can. We don't want to make things too tight so that we can't open our sleeve as well as we should be able to. But it's just for a finished look to the top, and also so it doesn't stretch out with use. And then we're going to stop in about the 5th or 6th stitch from the chain 2. Once we get back around to that stitch, we are going to chain, and we're going to chain 10 for the button that I'm using. You can change this to fit whichever button you decide to use, but for me it is a chain of 10. So you can see I have my 10 chains, and then I'm going to continue with my slip stitches, 1 slip stitch in each of the remaining stitches. So we're just going to go directly into the next stitch, making sure everything is in the position it should be, and continuing here. And we're going to just do that as we have been doing for the last few stitches of the row. I put my last slip stitch into the slip stitch from the previous row just because there's room there to put it, but you don't necessarily have to do that. But there we have our loop, and now I'm going to cut my tail, leaving enough to sew in, and then I'm just going to pull through my loop one last time with that tail so that I have a little bit of a knot there pulling tight. And then I will sew that in. If you don't like the look of the knot there, you can definitely sew it in without doing that. I just think it's a little more secure that way. And now we are going to move on to sewing on our button. So I'm just going to take the same purple yarn that I've been using and cut long enough to sew on the button, which is just, I don't know, about 8 or 9 inches. And I use a piece of fire line, which is like a fishing line that you use for beading, to help me with my button. The hole of my button is a little small, so my needle doesn't fit through it, and I can't shove the yarn through on its own either, so I just use this to help guide it through. It makes it a lot easier once I get it together. So I just put that through the hole with the yarn in the loop, and then I pull through and it gets it through perfect. And then I'm going to put my button in the center of that yarn and put my needle on the end of my yarn. Next, I'm also going to show you a trick to find the center of your work. You could do this for your loop as well if you have a different size project, but you just go one by one for each stitch from each side until you reach the center of your work. As you can see here, those 2 stitches are my center, so I'm going to sew my button on there, and I'm just going to go in on the top and then up through the other side, making sure that I don't get any tangles here. And then I'm going to just go directly back in with that side, and then I will remove my needle from that side of my yarn and place it on to the other side. And then I will go into my work on that side and come up from the bottom. And then again, I will remove my needle from my work because, like I said, it doesn't fit through the button, and I want to have my yarn go through the button twice just so that it's secure. So again, I'm going to put my yarn into the fire line like that with it folded over, and then I'm going to pull tight on the yarn inside the button to make room, and I'm just going to stick the fire line right through. This time it's going to be a little more snug, but you just take the same way and yank it through, and there you go. You have your yarn through your button 2 times so that it's extra secure. And then I just put my needle back onto my thread, or my yarn I should say, and then put it through my work. And then I pull both tails tight so that I don't have any slack in my button. And then I will just tie my tails together again 2 or 3 times here, and then I will sew in the ends. And once everything is sewn in, you have completed your project. So now we have our finished project, and you can fit your Kindle or tablet in, and it should be a snug fit, and you have your loop to go over your button to keep everything secure. If you liked this tutorial, please leave me a comment and a like, and subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. Also leave me a comment if you have any questions or any other suggestions for tutorials. And thank you for watching.